The phone rang. It was Richard. My son. Mom, don't come this year. Dinner's just for Carla's family. Christmas Eve was only days away. His words, delivered so casually, felt like a cold stone in my chest. 69 years I'd walked this earth. 42 of them dedicated to raising that boy alone. Now, he treated me like an inconvenience. An old piece of furniture, out of place. Only Carla's family, I asked. Though a quiet dread already told me the truth. My daughter-in-law, Carla, had been laying the groundwork for months, whispering in his ear, casting those veiled, condescending glances she thought I never caught. Oh, Mom, Richard sighed. Carla wants to do something special for Gabriel. Gabriel, my 8-year-old grandson, the one who still flung his small body into my arms, shouting Grandma the moment he saw me, the one who begged for my bedtime stories. His head nestled on my shoulder. My heart crumbled. Yet a strange, slow smile spread across my face. That's perfectly fine. Sweetheart, I replied, my voice calm, almost serene. Richard paused, perhaps expecting tears. A plea. Really? Mom, you're not upset, confusion. Maybe even a flicker of disappointment laced his tone. No. Honey, enjoy yourselves. I ended the call. A newfound peace settling over me. What none of them knew was that just 3 days prior, I had signed the papers for a $15 million beachfront mansion in Palm Beach, Florida, a property I'd watched in silence for months, waiting for my own perfect moment. In their eyes, I was simply poor, dependent grandma, residing in a small apartment. They saw the moss-green dress I'd worn to 3 consecutive holiday parties. The one Carla snickered at with her friends. Too old for that sort of thing. All the while, I quietly managed investments they couldn't even fathom. For years, I had swallowed their veiled insults, their pitying looks, enduring Carla's barbed comments about families needing their own space. I smiled as they seated me at the far end of the table, away from the important conversations. That evening, making coffee, I traced the gold keyring to the new mansion on my table. Something had shifted in me. Maybe it was the chilling dismissal in Richard's voice. The realization my own son chose to humiliate me over the phone rather than face to face. Or perhaps, simply, it was time I stopped being the silent victim in my own family story. The mansion, with its 8 ensuite bedrooms, infinity pool overlooking the ocean, and a great room designed for 50, was more than a house. It was a statement. While they planned their intimate dinner, I would prepare a Christmas they would never forget. That night, lying in bed, every past humiliation replayed Gabriel's birthdays. I was forgotten for. Richard's patronizing grocery money offered like a child's allowance. Family photos where I was cropped out because that's enough people. Small cruelties, drip by drip, accumulating like slow poison. But now, I held the pen to rewrite this story. They wouldn't suspect a thing. Weak Grandma Margaret died with that phone call. From her ashes, a new Margaret would rise. The next morning, I drove to Richard and Carla's 2-story house in their gated community. The house I had helped them secure 5 years prior when Richard lost his job. Carla opened the door, her annoyance barely concealed. Mrs. Margaret, we didn't expect you. She blocked the doorway, as if I were a traveling peddler. Hello, Carla. I came to see Gabriel, and to discuss Christmas plans. She finally shifted, but not before shooting Richard a sharp glance. He emerged, looking awkward, unable to meet my eyes. Mom, I told you, we're doing things differently this year. Gabriel, hearing my voice, burst from his room. beaming. Grandma, but Carla's heavy hand landed on his shoulder. Gabriel. Back to your room. Homework. Adults are talking. His bright smile extinguished. I sat on the sofa I'd gifted them last year, watching Carla settle opposite. Her high society pose perfected. I hope you understand. This isn't personal. She purred, every word dripping with superiority. My family has very particular Christmas traditions. What tradition is so special I can't be there? I asked, my voice betraying nothing. Richard shifted uncomfortably. Mom. Carla's family is more refined. Formal dinner. Certain rituals. Carla offered her practiced. Fake smile. Yes. My parents are French. They have their standards. Fine china. Crystal. Foie gras. 10 ported caviar. Her eyes swept over my moss-green dress. Assessing its worth, my cheeks burned. Not from shame, but a cold, building fury. And specifically, what about me isn't refined enough? The question hung. A silent bomb. Richard cleared his throat. It's just, you're not used to that kind of atmosphere. Gabriel crept out again. But Carla was quicker. Her voice sharp. Didn't you hear me? To your room. Now my grandson looked back. Apologetic. Then vanished. Carla leaned forward, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. What bothers me is how you always try to be the center of attention. Telling stories from the past. My parents aren't used to that. Her words felt like a slap. Richard stared at the floor. Spineless. Also, she continued, emboldened by my silence. The gifts you buy for Gabriel are always cheap. That plastic toy broke in 2 days. My parents gave him a trip to Disney World. Do you see the difference, Carla? Come on. Richard interjected weakly. She silenced him with a look. No. It's time to be honest. Mrs. Margaret, it's not that we don't like you. It's just that you no longer fit our lifestyle. The coupons. The supermarket sales. That's not what we want guests to hear about. My parents will think we lack class. Especially if you wear those thrift store dresses again. Her gaze landed on my dress. Full of contempt. Richard finally spoke. Only to reinforce her. Mom. Carla's right. Maybe this year, we each celebrate in our own way. You stay home. Turn on the TV. Relax. No pressure. That betrayal, delivered with such casual cruelty, felt like a hand reaching into my chest and tearing out my heart. My son, the one I raised alone, suggesting I spend Christmas isolated while they reveled in caviar. Carla added one more jab. Also, you tend to eat a bit too much at parties. My parents value table manners. We don't want any awkward moments. In that instant, something fundamental snapped within me. Not just the exclusion, but their deliberate pleasure in shaming me. I rose slowly, feeling every fiber of my being realign. I understand perfectly, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. Good. I'm glad you understand. Carla exhaled in relief. I knew you'd be reasonable. In the end, everyone wants what's best for the family. Her smile beamed, as if she'd solved a complex problem. I walked to the door, still hearing Gabriel's soft sniffles from his room. Richard escorted me out, attempting a look of remorse. Mom, please understand. Nothing personal? His platitudes were hollow. Of course. Sweetheart. Nothing personal at all. I echoed, savoring the bitter irony. They had no idea how deeply personal things were about to become. In the parking lot, the mansion's key ring in my coat pocket felt heavy, a promise of impending justice. That night, in my small apartment, I opened the hidden safe behind my wardrobe. This was the opening act of the story I was writing for myself. Inside lay everything my family had never seen: investment certificates, portfolio statements, property deeds. For 15 years since Robert, my husband, died, I had played the role of the poor, dependent widow. But the truth was entirely different. Robert was wiser than anyone knew. Before he passed, he quietly invested in tech stocks that were now worth a fortune. He also bought land in places that seemed insignificant, which later became multi-million-dollar developments. He left me not only love, but an initial nest egg of about $5 million, quietly multiplying year after year. Why the secrecy? At first, it was grief. I didn't want to touch anything after losing the love of my life. Then, as I began to see the true faces of certain family members, I decided to observe. I wanted to know who loved me for who I was, not for what I had. After years of being looked down upon, I had all the answers I needed. The $15 million beachfront mansion was only the beginning. I owned properties in 3 different states, a portfolio that generated more money than I could spend, and connections my family couldn't imagine. While Carla bragged about her high society parents, I quietly dined with real estate tycoons and philanthropists. No one in the family had a clue. The next day, I began. First, a call to my sister, Olivia, who lived in another state, estranged from family gatherings for 2 years because of Carla. Olivia. It's Margaret. Do you have Christmas plans? Her voice brightened. I didn't expect your call. I was planning to spend it alone after what Carla did last year. Forget that. I cut in. I'm inviting you to my new home this Christmas. A celebration like no other. I read off the mansion's address. I could hear her astonishment. Are you sure you wrote that right? It sounds like the priciest stretch of beachfront. That's exactly where it is. Come, and I'll tell you everything. Just bring an elegant outfit and a spirit ready to celebrate. Then, my cousin Maurice, who was like an older brother. Richard and Carla looked down on him because he was a mechanic. Maurice, how about we make this Christmas different? Last year, Carla had humiliated him, hinting he should wash his hands before touching anything in their living room. Are you okay? Richard just called. Said Christmas dinner was cancelled. Ah. So Richard even used my name to cancel. I mused. How amusing. I'm better than ever. I want you to bring the whole family to my Christmas party. I have a surprise for everyone. I gave him details. He still sounded unsure. Margaret. This address. Celebrities live there. Trust me. Dress sharp and prepare for the best Christmas of your life. I called every aunt, uncle, cousin, and close family friend. The very people Richard and Carla had gradually edged out of gatherings for being insufficiently refined. The guest list quickly climbed to 35. In the days that followed, I moved in circles unknown to my family. I contacted my best friend, Evelyn, director of a multi-million-dollar charity fund. Evelyn, I want to spend Christmas at my place. I want to introduce you to my family. Evelyn already knew my situation and had offered help many times. Fantastic. Your family will finally learn about your contributions to the fund. I laughed softly. Let's just say they're about to learn a lot about me. I also invited Leonard, my financial advisor, instrumental in growing my assets. Leonard, I want you to meet my son, Richard. At Christmas dinner, are you finally going to talk about the portfolio? He asked. Curious. Something like that. It's time he knows who his mother really is. I reached out to Iris, the interior designer, who transformed the mansion into a magazine-worthy Christmas castle. Iris, I want you to document the entire event. Photos? Video. Every detail. Meanwhile, I maintained my usual routine grocery shopping with coupons. Simple dresses. My small apartment. But every evening, I drove to the mansion to oversee preparations. The garden was lit with thousands of warm golden bulbs, reflecting off the infinity pool. The oceanfront veranda draped with fresh wreaths. The flowers alone cost more than Carla's monthly clothing budget. That week, Richard called me twice, perhaps from a spark of late-blooming guilt. "Mom, are you okay? You sounded so calm the other day." A note of worry I hadn't heard in years. "I'm wonderful, sweetheart. Actually, better than ever. Enjoy your very refined European dinner. Mom, if you want, you can come over for dessert. I know Carla said some harsh things. Don't worry about me. Richard," I gently cut in, "I'm going to have a wonderful Christmas. Probably the best of my life." He was clearly confused. "Are you going to someone's house?" I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "Enjoy your caviar and foie gras. I'll be exactly where I need to be." 3 days before Christmas, Carla called. "To Mrs. Margaret, I hope you won't take the other day to heart. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood this is best for all." Her voice dripped with syrupy fake sweetness. "Not at all, Carla. In fact, thank you for opening my eyes." I heard her exhale in relief. "Wonderful. I knew you'd be mature. After all, family comes first." "Right, absolutely. Family is the most important thing," I echoed, thinking of the 35 guests who'd confirmed for my celebration. On Christmas Eve, I was at the mansion for the final check when Maurice arrived early to help. His reaction was exactly as I pictured, frozen at the gate, mouth agape at the glowing marble fountain, the immaculate garden, and the towering house beneath the stars. "Whose place is this?" he asked as we walked the stone path. "Mine, Maurice. Entirely mine." He stopped in his tracks. "Yours? How is that possible? It's a long story. Let's say I've kept a few secrets." When we stepped into the great room, 20-foot ceilings, a marble fireplace, windows looking straight onto the private beach, Maurice dropped onto an Italian leather sofa. "Margaret, I don't understand anything anymore. Does Richard know about this? He doesn't know a thing. And tomorrow night, when he sees the photos of our party online, he'll realize he's made the biggest mistake of his life." I handed him my phone, showing the guest list. His eyes widened. "The whole extended family will be here, except Richard, Carla, and Gabriel." Understanding slowly spread across his face. "You're right. This is exactly what they deserve." "Exactly." Maurice. Christmas morning. I woke in the small apartment for the last time. My heart raced with a feeling I hadn't had in decades. Around mid-morning, Richard called with forced cheer. "Merry Christmas." "Mom, how are you doing?" "Wonderful, sweetheart. I'm getting ready for a memorable celebration." I wasn't lying. "Oh, are you going to Aunt Olivia's?" A hint of relief, as if that cleared his conscience. "Something like that. Olivia will be with me, and many very special people besides." I heard Carla's puzzled voice in the background. Richard couldn't resist boasting. "Mom, we're having a lovely day, too." Carla's parents brought French champagne. 500 a bottle. Sounds nice. "Richard, enjoy." This time, Carla grabbed the phone. "What will you be doing?" "Ma'am, I'll be welcoming family. The ones who truly value me. At my home." "Young lady." The silence was delicious. "Your home? You mean the apartment?" "I mean exactly what I say." "Carla, at my home?" I hung up, feeling a satisfaction years in the making. I knew that call would make them restless, but they couldn't begin to imagine what was coming. At noon, I headed to the mansion for final touches. Chef Philip's team was in the gourmet kitchen, preparing a menu that would make Carla's foie gras seem like fast food fresh lobster. Norwegian salmon, Top-tier beluga caviar. The aroma wafting from the kitchen was pure heaven. Iris had exceeded my expectations with the decor. The main living room was a Christmas fairy tale. A 13-foot tree glittering with Austrian crystal. The dining table set with fine china, crystal stemware, and white orchid arrangements that cost more than Richard's monthly salary. Early afternoon, guests began to arrive. Olivia was first. Her face, as the taxi stopped at the gate, was priceless. She stood on the curb, staring at the estate like a mirage. "Margaret, please tell me you're not involved in anything risky," were her first words. On the contrary, "Dear, for the first time in years, I'm exactly where I belong." I linked arms with Olivia, giving her a tour. Each room drew another gasp. "How is this possible? Since when have you had this much money?" We sat on the oceanfront veranda with 2 glasses of real champagne. "Do you remember when Robert died 15 years ago?" She nodded. "It turns out my husband was better with money than any of us realized." I told her everything, the secret investments, the obscure land plots now worth millions, the stocks that multiplied 100-fold. "Why did you never say anything?" Olivia was stunned. "Because I wanted to know who loved me for who I am, not for my wallet. And the results say a lot." Half an hour later, Maurice arrived with his entire family wife. 3 kids, even his mother-in-law. Their reactions mirrored Olivia's, multiplied by 6. His kids, from 15 to 22, rushed into the garden for selfies. "Aunt Margaret, it looks like a princess's palace," the youngest daughter exclaimed. "And you are the princes and princesses I love most," I replied, savoring their pure joy. A stark contrast to the calculation I'd seen in my own family for so many years. They hugged me out of genuine affection, not because they expected anything in return. As afternoon faded, the mansion filled with laughter, music, and lively conversations. Every guest had a story about how Richard and Carla had gradually pushed them out. A nurse cousin recounted Carla's hint, "Maybe don't wear scrubs next time," when she visited Gabriel's birthday right after a hospital shift. An 80-year-old neighbor, like a father since Robert died, confessed Richard told him last year it was time for the older generation to make way for new traditions. Each story was a fresh cut, but also hardened my resolve. As the sun set, painting the ocean rose and gold, Evelyn arrived with a surprise, a professional photographer. "I figured you'd want to capture this special night." Evelyn smiled conspiratorially. "I have a feeling this will be historic." The photographer began clicking laughter by the pool, clinking glasses on the veranda, children playing beneath garden lights. Every photo would be proof of the spectacular party Richard and Carla forfeited through arrogance. Leonard, my financial advisor, arrived with his wife, a doctor. He looked at the 35 guests and teased. "You said you had an interesting family. I didn't expect this many. Real family are the people who love you unconditionally, Leonard, and as you can see, in that regard, I'm very rich." As appetizers were set, my phone rang incessantly. "Richard." I let it vibrate. He called back immediately. This time, I put it on speaker for Olivia and Maurice to hear. "Mom, where are you? I've been calling all afternoon." His voice was tight with impatience. "I'm at home, sweetheart. Enjoying a wonderful Christmas with family." "At home? I just went to the apartment and you weren't there? Security said you left early." A wave of satisfaction washed over me. So, they did go looking. That high society dinner wasn't keeping them so busy. The silence on the line felt heavy. "Wherever you are, come back. Gabriel is waiting for you. He keeps asking for you." The emotional card, using my grandson as bait. "Tell Gabriel his grandma loves him dearly. But tonight, I'm celebrating with the people who truly value me." I heard Carla arguing in the background, her perfect plan crumbling. "Mrs. Margaret, this is Carla. I don't know what game you're playing. But it's ridiculous. Come back right now and stop being dramatic. Her voice, imperious, demanding submission. Drama. Carla, this isn't theater. This is real life. And in real life, actions have consequences. What do you mean? Richard cut in. A fear I'd never heard before. I mean, you chose who was worthy of being at the family Christmas. And I've made my choice. Too. I hung up. Olivia looked at me, admiring yet worried. This just got serious. Sis, it's time it did. Olivia, for 15 years, I've swallowed my pride, endured humiliation, pretended it didn't hurt. Today, that ends. Maurice raised his glass, a toast to Margaret, who proves it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. Everyone clinked glasses. For the first time in years, I knew I was exactly where I belonged, surrounded by true love and respect. The night was only beginning. The best part was still ahead. When the party hit its stride, I launched phase 2. Iris. I called to the designer. Post all the photos and videos to my social media: Facebook, Instagram, and the family group chat. I want everyone to see a real family Christmas. Iris smiled, arranging the shots on her laptop. The frames were stunning, the mansion glowing like a fairy tale palace. A dinner table straight out of Hollywood. Guests toasting against the night ocean. Each picture radiated elegance, wealth, and above all, genuine happiness. These are going to blow up, Evelyn said as she reviewed them. Especially the one of you on the veranda raising your glass at sunset. You look like a queen in her own castle. She wasn't exaggerating. In the photo, I wore the champagne-colored gown I'd set aside, with heirloom jewelry from my mother-in-law, worth more than Richard's car. The first image I posted was a wide shot of the garden-lit mansion, captioned, "Spending Christmas with Family." The people who truly love me. Grateful. Comments poured in instantly. Distant cousins. Childhood friends. Neighbors. All astonished. Maurice leaned in, grinning. You should check your phone. Your notifications are exploding. Sure enough. Every minute brought more comments. More hearts. More questions. Where is this? Margaret, is this your new home? Looks like a 5-star resort. I posted the second shot: the dining room, with everyone gathered around the massive table. The crystal chandelier casting an enchanted light. Dishes plated like a 5-star restaurant. Caption: Family reunited. 35 hearts beating as one. That is the real meaning of wealth. Likes and comments surged. When it was time to eat, I glanced at my phone. 17 missed calls from Richard. 9 from Carla. 20 messages. Mom. Where are you? Whose house is this? How do you have so much money? Carla is crying. She doesn't understand. Please pick up. I turned it off and returned to dinner. Chef Philip had prepared a 7-course menu that outdid anything Carla could imagine. Maurice's eldest son leaned in. Auntie, it's hard to believe you live in a small apartment when you have all this. Why? Many people have asked me the same thing. I replied, because I wanted to know who loved me with their heart, not for the numbers in my bank account. And now you're sure, I added. Olivia raised her glass. Here's to your wisdom. Others might have flaunted it from day one. You had the patience to wait 15 years to see people clearly. Glasses clinked. Eyes shimmered with tears. I posted the strongest photo: me, standing on the main veranda, lifting a glass of champagne. Behind me, the mansion blazed with light and the night ocean. I wore the pearl necklace inherited from my mother, the one I'd never brought out because Carla liked to sneer at old-fashioned stuff. Caption: At 69. I've learned it's never too late to surround yourself only with true love. My home. My family. My happiness. The image spread. Within an hour, hundreds of comments. Shared everywhere. Margaret, we had no idea you had such a beautiful home. Why didn't you ever invite us? You look like a millionaire lady. Leonard, observing the social media strategy, came over. You're a master of digital revenge. Richard and Carla can't ignore or spin this. That's exactly the point. Leonard, to show them precisely what they lost because of their arrogance. When I checked my phone again, 43 missed calls from Richard, 26 from Carla, and, most surprisingly, several from Gabriel using a friend's phone. Richard's messages slid from confusion to desperation. Mom, please tell me what's going on. Is that really your house? Carla says, it's impossible you have that kind of money. We're very worried. But the most notable lines came from Carla Mrs. Margaret, I don't understand why you're doing this. Why didn't you ever say you had money? Richard is very upset. At exactly midnight, as everyone stood on the veranda, watching the fireworks I'd hired, Gabriel reached me on his best friend's phone. Grandma, why aren't you here? I miss you so much. The boy's voice made my heart clench. I miss you. too. Sweetheart, but sometimes adults make decisions that have consequences. Your parents decided I wasn't elegant enough for their special dinner. But I want to be with you. My mom's been crying all night and Dad is really angry. My darling, one day you'll understand. The people who truly love you will never make you feel like you're not enough. From a distance, I heard Carla snap. Give me that phone right now, before the call ended. Iris rushed over with her laptop. Margaret, you have to see this. Your photos have over 500,000 views in just a few hours. Everyone's asking about the mansion. About you. About this transformation. Notifications kept rolling in. Each one a small victory. Maurice sat beside me, watching the last sparks of fireworks fade. Think Richard and Carla have learned their lesson. They've only seen the tip of the iceberg. Maurice, tomorrow they'll learn who I really am. And it'll be even more shocking. Olivia hugged me. This is the best Christmas of my life. But I'm curious what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow, they'll come here. And when they step inside, they'll get the most important lesson of their lives. As the final flare dissolved in the sky, I knew I'd achieved more than payback. I had reclaimed my dignity, gathered the relatives who truly belonged to me, and proved that respect isn't something to beg for. It's something to build and demand. The night was perfect. But the main event was still ahead. On the morning of December 26th, I woke in the mansion's primary bedroom, on the king bed facing the ocean. For the first time in years, I felt complete peace. Olivia joined me on the veranda, sipping coffee, her eyes following the waves. Good morning, Miss Millionaire, she teased. How does it feel to be the most powerful woman in the family, like Justice? Olivia, pure justice. We had breakfast croissants, fresh, tropical fruit, eggs Benedict. My phone rang. A strange number. Hello, Mrs. Margaret. I'm Gabriel's best friend's mother. Sorry to call so early. But Richard and Carla rushed over first thing, asking if we knew where you were. How interesting. They were desperate enough to bother other parents. What did you tell them? Well, we saw your photos last night on Facebook. The house is stunning. Parents at school are buzzing. They looked frantic, said they needed to see you urgently. Tell them I'm perfectly fine. When I want to meet, I'll reach out. Over the next half hour, 5 more calls like that. An old neighbor, a distant relative, even Gabriel's dentist. Richard and Carla were mobilizing the world to find me. I opened my phone to check the scale of the storm. Dozens of missed calls. Hundreds of messages shifting from confusion to panic. Mom, I don't understand anything anymore. How do you have a mansion? Why did you never tell us you're wealthy? Carla's in shock. Hasn't slept all night. Please talk to us. Carla's texts showed her true colors. Maybe I was a bit blunt. You know me. Why did you have to put on a show instead of just saying the truth, then sliding into alarm? Parents from school keep calling. Where are you? I posted one last photo, me in a silk robe. Drinking coffee on the main veranda. The blue ocean behind me. Caption, waking up in paradise. When you remove toxic people from your life, what remains is only peace and happiness. Comments flooded in. Richard reacted with a shocked emoji. Carla wrote, Mrs. Margaret, please call us. We're really worried. I didn't respond. Early in the afternoon, a BMW screeched to a halt at the gate. Richard and Carla got out. Both disheveled. Richard still in yesterday's clothes. Carla's mascara smudged. Hair a mess, something I'd never seen. They stood there, pointing at each detail, the glowing marble fountain, the immaculate garden, the colonnade, the ocean view. Their mouths hung open in disbelief. Finally, Richard rang the bell, through the intercom. His voice trembled. Mom, I know you're in there. Please. We need to talk. I let them wait 5 minutes. Just enough time to finish my lunchtime glass of champagne. Who is it? I asked. As if I didn't know. Mom? It's Richard. I'm here with Carla. Please open the door. His voice carried a desperation I'd never heard. Richard. What are you doing here? Aren't you busy enjoying that refined European dinner? A suffocating silence. Mom. Please. We need an explanation. None of this makes sense. An explanation for what? Dear, the house. The money. Or why I hid things from you. Have you been lying to us this whole time? I never lied. I simply didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. I heard Carla mutter behind him. Could you open the gate so we can talk like adults? Fine. But first, answer me this. Did you come today because you truly wanted to see me? Or because the photos made me suddenly interesting? The question hung like a blade. That's not it. Mom, we're just overwhelmed. Why did you never say you had so much money? Because I wanted to know you loved me for who I am. Richard. Not for what I own. And now I have all the answers I need. I buzzed the gate open. They walked slowly up the stone path. Each step heavy with surprise and dawning understanding. Before them stood not a poor, dependent grandma, but a strong woman on her own ground. When they reached the front door, I opened it myself, wearing an elegant red dress and my mother-in-law's pearl necklace. The looks on their faces were exactly what I'd waited 15 years to see: shock, confusion, and for the first time in a very long time, a hint of unintentional respect. Hello? Richard. Hello. Carla. Welcome to my home. My voice was calm, controlled, authoritative. Come in. We have a lot to discuss. They entered as if touring a museum. Eyes drifting from the crystal chandelier in the foyer to the original paintings on the walls. From the marble floors to the designer furnishings. It was as if they were seeing a ghost. But that ghost was me. I gestured to the Italian leather sofa. Sit. They obeyed without a word. Something I hadn't seen in years. Normally, Carla would offer a condescending remark about the decor. Richard would try to steer the conversation. Now, they were lost. Can you explain what's going on? Richard finally found his voice. Small and unsure. Is this house really yours? Of course. It's mine. Sweetheart, I bought it a week ago. Paid in full. The words, paid in full, drained the color from their faces. Carla, who'd been staring out at the ocean, snapped back, wearing that calculating look I knew too well. Mrs. Margaret, I don't understand where you got that kind of money. Did you win the lottery and not tell us? I let out a soft laugh, an even more destabilizing sound for them. The lottery. Carla, no. Dear. This is bigger than winning the lottery. This is planning, smart investing, and patience. I walked toward the glass doors, savoring the feeling of complete control. When Robert died 15 years ago, you assumed I'd fallen into hardship. I still remember the pitying looks you gave me at the funeral, whispering that poor Mrs. Margaret would have to sell the house and live on a tiny pension. Richard lowered his head, clearly remembering those conversations. Here's what no one knew: Robert was a genius investor. For 20 years, he quietly bought shares of tech companies that seemed obscure, but that he believed would explode. He also bought land in places everyone mocked, which are now projects worth many millions of dollars. Carla parted her lips to cut in, but I stopped her with a look. I'm not finished. Carla, Robert left me not only love, but an initial nest egg of about $5 million, quietly growing over the years. Now it has surpassed 80 million. The room went silent. Richard looked like he'd just taken a punch. 80 million, he muttered. And you lived all those years in a small apartment using coupons, sometimes borrowing money from me. Exactly. Son, for 15 years, I played the poor widow to watch closely, who loved me for who I am, and who merely tolerated me out of obligation. I sat down across from them, crossing my legs with poise I'd deliberately hidden. But why? Carla looked genuinely bewildered. Why pretend to be poor when you're that rich? Because I wanted to see the true hearts of the people around me. Carla, and the results are crystal clear. Richard leaned forward, his hands trembling. Mom, if we had known. What would we have done differently, Richard? You could have treated me with respect. Carla could have stopped mocking my clothes and my food. You could have included me in every plan instead of shutting me out. Carla flushed. Mrs. Margaret, I never. Well, maybe I was a bit blunt at times. A bit blunt. I stood again, feeling the power I'd kept buried rise. Carla, for 5 years, you treated me like a burden. You made me feel unnecessary at every party. Last year, you said the gift I bought Gabriel was cheap. 6 months ago, you hinted I shouldn't attend his school performance because the other grandmas dress better. Last month, you told me not to bring the dish I love to family dinner. It doesn't fit your refined menu. Each word was a bullet. Richard hurried to defend his wife. Mom, Carla wasn't trying to be cruel. She just has high standards. High standards? I arched a brow. You mean, when your wife told me I should wash my hands more thoroughly because some older people don't realize they're not completely clean? The shock on Richard's face told me Carla had never mentioned that. Carla said that to you, his voice cracked, tinged with danger. Oh. There's plenty more your perfect daughter-in-law has said when you weren't around. Son. Carla shot to her feet. You're exaggerating. Maybe I was careless sometimes. But I never careless, I cut in, my voice unfamiliar even to me. 2 days ago, you told me I wasn't refined enough to dine with your parents. You mocked my coupons and suggested I spend Christmas alone in front of the TV. Richard whipped toward his wife with a look I'd never seen. You said that to my mother. My parents have certain expectations, Carla stammered. For the first time since I'd known her. Expectations about what? Carla, about his own mother. Richard's voice rose. For the first time in years, my son was on my side. But it was too late. Richard, I said evenly, don't get angry with Carla. She only revealed her true nature. Just like you did when you called to exclude me from Christmas without even asking how I felt. Mom, I thought you would understand. Carla said it would be better. Carla thought. Carla wanted. And how did I feel? Richard, when was the last time you truly cared about my opinion? I walked to the window and pointed down to the beach. See that veranda last night? 35 people had dinner with me. 35 people who love me enough to choose to be with me on Christmas. People who would never make me feel not enough. Olivia flew in from 3 states away. Maurice canceled his plans to bring his whole family. Neighbors, cousins, even people I hadn't seen in years. If I invited them, they came. Carla began to cry. Not the tears of a victim, but of someone who had realized the consequences of her actions. Mrs. Margaret, I'm truly sorry. If you had told us earlier, but you didn't speak. Carla, and that is exactly why I kept quiet. I wanted to see how you would treat me when you thought I had nothing to offer. Richard stood and walked toward me. Mom, I know you're angry. We deserve it. But we're family. We can fix this. Maybe. Richard, but the night you called to cut me out of Christmas. Where was that family first you liked to preach? That was a terrible mistake. Mom, Carla convinced me. But I should have thought for myself. He finally took responsibility. But the wound was too deep. Richard, for 15 years, I waited for someone to stand up for me. I waited for my own son to value me enough not to let me be humiliated right in front of him. That never happened. My voice wavered. The first time I let the depth of the pain show. Now you're here. Not because you suddenly understand I deserve respect, but because you learned I have money. You don't see the difference. The question hung like a verdict. Carla stepped closer. Eyes red. You're right. I was awful to you. There's no excuse. But Gabriel needs you. He doesn't understand why his grandma disappeared. The final play using my grandson as an emotional shield. Gabriel needs me. Carla. But he also needs to grow up in a family that teaches respect and real values. Clearly. You both have a lot of work to do. I tilted my head toward the door. Closing the conversation. That's enough for today. When you're ready to apologize sincerely, not to cry because you've just realized you mistreated someone with power. You know where to find me. I left them standing there, stunned by the wreckage of their arrogance. The days that followed were an emotional roller coaster. Richard and Carla didn't give up after the conversation at the mansion. On the contrary, they tried harder, which surprised me. On the second day, Richard showed up alone, without Carla, wearing an expression I hadn't seen in a long time, true humility. Mom, I know I have no right to ask for anything after how we treated you. He began as I cracked the door, but I need you to know I didn't sleep last night. I lay there replaying every moment I failed as a son. His eyes were red. For the first time in years, he looked vulnerable. Come in. Richard. But this time, you enter my home on my terms. I led him to the veranda, where I'd just finished breakfast. Coffee I poured into a china cup, noticing his eyes snag on each luxurious detail. The things he'd seen me use for so long without knowing their origin. Mom, I need to ask you something. And I hope you'll answer completely honestly. He sat on the edge of his seat, like a man at a job interview. In all those years, was there ever a time you felt I truly valued you, not out of obligation, but because you're my mother? The question surprised me with its bluntness. Richard, there were beautiful moments when you were born, when you were little, when you truly needed me. But in recent years, I paused, searching for words. In recent years, I felt you tolerated me more than you appreciated me. Exactly what I was afraid you'd say. He buried his face in his hands. Mom, I've become someone I don't even recognize. I let Carla make the family decisions, even the ones involving you, without defending your place in our lives. That's hard to forgive. And what about Carla? I asked, wanting to know her reaction. Carla is trying to process it. She's been crying since yesterday, saying she's the worst person alive. But honestly, Mom, I don't know whether those tears are because she hurt you or because she thinks she missed out on the chance to benefit from your wealth. His candor stopped me short. And what about you? Richard, why are you here? Because of genuine guilt? Or because you realized I'm not the financial burden you thought I was? Both. He answered immediately. I hate to admit it, but it's the truth. I'm here because my heart hurts, realizing I was blind and cruel to you. But also because I'm afraid I've lost forever the one person who has always loved me unconditionally. At least you're honest. I leaned back, watching the waves thrash the private shore. Richard, for 15 years, I waited for you to realize you were losing me. But only when you saw a mansion and a fortune did you admit you were wrong. You're right. That makes me the worst kind of son. His voice cracked. Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Maybe it's too late to fix what we did. But I need you to know I regret every moment I made you feel small. And what about Gabriel? Richard, how do you explain this to an 8-year-old? That's the hardest part. He doesn't understand why his grandma suddenly disappeared. He asks about you every day. Yesterday, he said, Dad, why doesn't Grandma want to see us anymore? Tears spilled down my cheeks. The child isn't at fault for his parents' mistakes. I said softly, my heart twisting. I know. Mom, I'm trying to explain it in a way he can understand. I told him sometimes adults make very big mistakes and have to work a long time to fix them. Right then, my phone rang. It was Olivia. Are you okay? I see Richard is there. I'm fine. Richard and I are having a necessary conversation. Good. I wanted to tell you. Maurice just called. The whole family knows now. And everyone is on your side. Just so you're aware. Hanging up, I caught Richard's questioning look. The whole family knows. Richard, what you don't understand is that all these years, the relatives have seen how Carla treated me. Everyone's heard her condescending remarks. Everyone noticed how you two gradually cut me out of family life. This revelation isn't just about money. It's about justice. Maurice told me about the time Carla told him to wash his hands. Olivia reminded me of when she forgot to invite her to a party. Your cousin said Carla once told her not to bring the little ones because they were too noisy. Richard's face went pale with each example. I didn't know. Carla never told me. Because she knew she was wrong. Exactly. But she still did it because she believed her influence over you was stronger than your loyalty to your family. Mom, is there any way you could forgive us? Any way we can earn back your trust, Richard? Forgiveness doesn't come right after an apology. It's built with consistent actions over time. What do we need to do? His voice was desperate but sincere. First, understand this isn't just my new house. It embodies who I truly am. The woman I have always been. You just never bothered to find out. Second, accept that Gabriel deserves to grow up with his real grandma. Not the version you prefer. He needs to know he can dream big. Reach for the extraordinary. And never let anyone make him feel small. Third, I stepped out to the veranda railing. Commit to treating everyone with respect and dignity, no matter how much money they have. Because true elegance isn't bought in European stores. Richard, it lies in how you treat people you think can't give you anything in return. Richard stepped beside me. Mom, I know we have a lot to do. It may take years to earn back your trust. But I'm ready to do whatever it takes. As for Carla, she has to decide for herself what kind of person she wants to be. But I promise I'll never let anyone, not even my wife, disrespect you again. One more thing you need to know. Richard, I turned back, smiling. The smile I hadn't shown anyone in years. This mansion isn't just mine. I'll leave half of it to Gabriel in my will. But he only receives it if he grows into a man who treats everyone with kindness and respect. You're leaving him millions of dollars, yes? But more importantly, I'm leaving him a lesson. A person's true worth isn't measured by what they own, but by how they treat others, especially the people they love. Richard broke down. After everything we did, you're still thinking about Gabriel's future. I always think about him. Son, the difference is that now I have the resources to make sure he becomes exceptional. Could we bring Gabriel to visit you? He misses you so much. Yes. But on one condition. When he comes here, he'll meet the real grandma, a businesswoman, a philanthropist, a property owner. I don't want him growing up thinking older people are a burden, or that money determines a person's value. Yes, Mom. Whatever you say. Richard hugged me for the first time in years. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of the little boy I once raised with all my love. There's still hope for us, son. But that hope requires real actions, not pretty words. That afternoon, after Richard left, I sat on the veranda, watched the sunset, and reflected. I'd achieved more than payback. I reclaimed my dignity, taught important lessons, and opened the door to reconciliation. If it happens, built on mutual respect. Most importantly, I proved it's never too late to protect yourself. Demand the treatment you deserve, and remind the world who you are. 3 months after the Christmas that changed everything, I sat in the mansion's office, reviewing plans for a charity fund I decided to establish. The ocean view from the mahogany desk reminded me, daily life can change completely when you dare to stand up and reveal your true worth. Gabriel has visited me every weekend since January. The first time after the revelation, that's what the family calls it. The boy's mouth hung open for 10 straight minutes as he toured the mansion. Grandma, is all of this really yours? His eyes were wide. Yes, sweetheart. And one day, if you become the kind, generous man, I believe you will, a part of this will be yours. I explained in terms he could grasp. Money is a tool to do good, not to show off or humiliate others. Gabriel, with a child's innate wisdom, understood immediately. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Grandma, he asked one Saturday morning as we built a sandcastle on the private beach. Because I needed to know who loved me with their heart. Gabriel. And now I know for sure. Over those 3 months, Richard kept his word. He worked to repair things. Not with expensive gifts or showy gestures, but with the small things I hadn't seen in so long. Calling me every day. Not to ask for anything, just to see how my day was. Visiting alone, without Carla, to talk honestly about life, about mistakes, and about his plan to become a better man. Mom, I've been thinking a lot, he said one Tuesday afternoon. I realized that for years I stopped seeing you as a person. Only as my mother. As if that's all you are. That's a common mistake. Son, people forget their parents had a life before they became parents. And they still have dreams, ambitions, and a personality. We sat in the library, filled with books I'd collected for years, but never had space to display. I want to get to know that person. Mom, I want to know Margaret the entrepreneur, Margaret the investor, the woman who built all this and still humbly shopped with coupons. His smile this time was real, not the forced kind I endured for years. The story with Carla was different. In the first weeks, she tried to move closer with a mix of rushed apologies and lines that still revealed she hadn't fully grasped the extent of her wrongdoing. Mrs. Margaret, I know I was hard on you, but I didn't expect you to hold a grudge like this, she said in a maddening call. Carla. I answered with the patience I'd honed through years of meditating on the veranda. The issue isn't that I held a grudge. The issue is that for 5 years, you tried to make me invisible in my own family. But then something seemed to start changing in her. Maybe because she saw Richard truly changing, or because she realized she'd chosen the wrong side of the story. Carla began sending Kinder messages. recalling moments when we'd gotten along. Apologizing for remarks, she finally called by their true name, Cruel. On her first visit to the mansion in February, she confessed, "Mrs. Margaret, I'm in therapy. My therapist is helping me understand that my behavior comes from my own insecurities." For the first time, I saw her truly vulnerable. "The problem, Carla, is that you tried to feel better by making me feel worse. That will never be a solution." I poured tea into the china cups, noticing her eyes linger on each detail, mixed with admiration and remorse. "I get it now, and I know it may take years to earn your forgiveness. But I want you to know I'm committed to changing. Not just for you, but for Gabriel. I don't want my son to grow up thinking mistreating others is normal." The most beautiful transformation came from Gabriel. Over time, he began to grasp the deepest lesson in all of this. "Grandma," he said one afternoon as we strolled through the garden, "now I understand why you always tell me to be kind to everyone at school. Even the kids who don't have the cool toys. Why is that?" "Sweetheart, because we never know who's truly special on the inside. Like you. You look like an ordinary grandma, but you've actually been a superhero all along." The logic of an 8-year-old. Perfect. Exactly. Gabriel. And more importantly, everyone deserves kindness. Money or no money. Power or no power. That is the mark of a truly elegant person. My story spread beyond the family. Evelyn shared my experience in women entrepreneur groups, and I received dozens of messages from older women who'd gone through the same thing, being underestimated, dismissed by their own relatives. One letter touched my heart. From a 74-year-old woman in the Midwest. "Dear Mrs. Margaret, your story gave me the courage to finally tell my family about the company I started 20 years ago. For 2 decades, I pretended to be a boring retiree while building a 6-figure business. Your courage helped me reclaim myself. With Leonard's support, I founded the Dignity and Respect Fund, focused on helping older people sidelined or belittled by their families. The first project is a program to reconnect grandparents with grandchildren. Kids kept apart by toxic parents. Do you know what's best about all this?" Mom Richard asked at last month's family dinner at the mansion, the first with Richard, Carla, and Gabriel. And everything finally complete. "What is it?" "Son, you didn't just teach a lesson about respect. You taught that it's never too late to change your life, to protect yourself, and to demand the treatment you deserve." Carla nodded, eyes brimming. "Even better," I said, looking at Gabriel. Stacking blocks in the living room. "We're teaching Gabriel that real power doesn't come from money, but from integrity, kindness, and the determination never to let anyone make you feel small." That night, after they left, I stepped onto the veranda and watched stars mirrored in the infinity pool. I thought about the road since the call that changed my life. A story that began in exclusion and humiliation, becoming a journey of standing up and being redeemed. What I learned is that true revenge isn't hurting those who hurt you, but living so well, so rightly, so vibrantly that their behavior becomes the greatest shame to themselves. I didn't need to destroy Richard and Carla. The fact that they understood what they'd lost was the heaviest consequence. I reclaimed not only my dignity, but my identity. I am no longer the poor grandma or the dependent widow. I am Margaret, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a woman who quietly built an empire and used that strength to teach the most important lessons about respect and humanity. As the waves lapped my private shore, I smiled, thinking of those who'd been inspired. If my experience can give even one grandmother the courage to stand up and reclaim her dignity, or lead one family to treat their elders better, then every minute I was underestimated was worth it. At 70, I've learned it's never too late to rewrite your life, to show the world who you are, and to make sure the people you love learn the values that truly matter. And that, more than any mansion or fortune, is the greatest legacy I can leave. Respect isn't something to beg for, but to build and demand. Sometimes, the most powerful lesson you can give is to live so radiantly that your very existence becomes proof of how badly they misjudged you.